Graham, you're letting yourself down. What does nothing will stop us mean?
He means he wants to eradicate Hamas.
No, he doesn't. Well, what does nothing will stop us mean?
It means he'll do what it takes to eradicate Hamas.
So what would stop him from continuing that course? How many deaths?
The surrender of Hamas would stop him.
No, nothing will stop us.
The surrender of Hamas would stop him.
Graham, you know what these words mean, Graham? It means
surrender of Hamas will stop him.
It means he's prepared to kill 2 million civilians.
No, it does not. Don't be stupid.
Right, so you know what it doesn't. You know what it doesn't mean,
James. You're being absolutely.
James O'Brien just delivered one of the sharpest takedowns you'll ever hear on live radio, and he did it with just 4 words. A confident caller phones in, insisting Hamas should just surrender to stop the killing. But when James calmly asks what Netanyahu actually means by "nothing will stop us," the caller's argument collapses. He twists, deflects, and finally blurts out, "I can't know what's in his mind," while still making bold claims about Netanyahu's future. For 10 painful minutes, James doesn't shout or mock. He simply holds up a mirror. Each question strips away another layer of denial until the caller's logic folds in on itself. By the end, he's forced to face the truth he's been dodging since the start. This isn't just a debate. It's a masterclass in exposing what happens when conviction meets reality. Before we dive into the full breakdown, comment where you're watching from and don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one.
Good morning, James. I think the one word that seems to be missing from all of these conversations about the terrible situation there is the word surrender. The needless killing of people can simply stop today if Hamas simply surrendered. And there's precedent for that because the PLO were fighting in Jordan and realised they were against insurmountable odds. They surrendered and left the country, and then peace was restored.
With respect, Graham, the conversation we're having today is about the scenario absent surrender. It's about what Netanyahu means when he says nothing will stop us, and the question of why there is this reluctance, although to their credit many of my contributors today are shrugging off that reluctance, a reluctance to admit that Israel is perfectly prepared to kill every civilian in Gaza.
I think, James, I think that Netanyahu's political future is very limited. He's not going to last long after this.
Well, that'll be little comfort to anybody burying their child next week.
Well, yes, but the point is they don't have to bury their child if Hamas put the white flag up. Simple as that.
Yes, but as I've just reminded you respectfully, the conversation we're having today is about what Netanyahu is doing, not what Hamas should be doing. And what Netanyahu is doing is clearly, to my mind, embarking upon a policy built upon the belief that every single human being in Gaza deserves to die.
I don't know whether that's right or wrong, but the point of the message...
Challenge it.
The point should be that as soon as Hamas...
But you can't have a conversation about what Netanyahu is doing by telling me what you think Hamas should be doing.
Well,
it's not a conversation. Here's a question. What is Netanyahu... Graham, the question is, what is Netanyahu doing? Your answer can't be, let me tell you what Hamas should be doing. Do you see that?
No, I don't.
Okay, let me say it again. Let me say it again.
Let me say it again. By surrendering.
Let me say it again.
He have power.
Let me say it again.
If they surrender, the Israelis will chuck him out. Simple as that.
Let me say it again. The question, what is Netanyahu doing, does not admit the answer, let me tell you what Hamas should be doing. You must see that.
I don't.
Well, would you mind trying a bit harder?
I see that the cause of the problem...
Would you mind trying a tiny bit harder? Would you mind trying a tiny bit harder?
I'm just trying as hard as I can.
Okay, then I'll say it once more. The question is, what is Benjamin Netanyahu doing, a man who has talked in the past of having a chance to get all the Arabs out? What is he doing in the next war? If we do it right, we'll have a chance to get all the Arabs out. So again, respectfully, that rather removes the precedent of previous negotiations or surrenders from the table, because he's already talking in his own mind about the next war. We get all the Arabs out. The question of what is his end game, what is his purpose, you cannot answer that question by telling me, here's a complete counterfactual about what I think Hamas should be doing. And what I think...
The end game for Netanyahu is probably a prison cell if he gets convicted for corruption.
Yeah, that's another helpful distraction, but I mean, a rather transparent one.
Well, that's your view, not mine.
No, it's not. No, talking about Netanyahu being in a prison cell is a distraction from the question of what his current military policy is. That's not a view. That's not a view. That's a statement of fact. It's not a view.
Well, his position will become irrelevant at the moment Hamas surrender.
So what is his position? What is the position? What is the position that would become irrelevant?
He will no longer have power if Hamas surrenders.
No, you said his position would become irrelevant. What is his position?
Yeah. His position now, it doesn't matter.
But what is it, though?
As soon as they surrender,
what is it?
Then the war stops and the Israeli people will throw him out of power.
What is the position?
I have no idea what his position is. I can't know what's in his mind.
So you don't know what the words "nothing will stop us" mean?
Well, words that were said 20, 30 years
No, this was yesterday.
Probably were... I'm sure he is not interested in genocide. The Israeli people.
What does nothing will stop us mean, then? What does it mean? What is his position? He said to the Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, in Jerusalem yesterday, not 20 years ago. And also, again, respectfully, if you thought that saying he said that 20 years ago somehow diffused the words, then you must be acknowledging the power of the words when you suddenly discover that they were actually said yesterday. So what do you think they mean?
I don't know what they mean.
Yes, you do.
I don't know what. I don't.
You do, Graham. Of course you do. Well, let's go through them. Let's go through them one by one. Let's go through them one by one. What does the word "nothing"? What does the word "nothing" mean?
It's irrelevant once the fighting stops.
What does the word "nothing" mean?
Because he'll no longer have any power. He'll be a footnote in history.
That's all very interesting, but what does the word "nothing" mean?
I'm sorry, I don't see where you're going with that.
Well, it's a fairly straightforward attempt to help you understand what the words "nothing will stop us" mean, because you just said you didn't.
Well, he wants to see Hamas eradicated.
Talking about the word, what does the word "nothing"
frankly,
mean?
I don't think, from a military point of view, you'll ever eradicate Hamas.
What does the word "nothing" mean?
Not the point. The point is...
I'm afraid it is the point. It's what he said yesterday, and it's his policy that you phoned in to discuss.
People are needlessly being slaughtered.
Well, I agree with that. So what does the phrase "nothing will stop us" mean? It means there is no level of...
to stop it is for Hamas to surrender.
Okay, so we're back...
argument.
But no, it's not the end of...
The government changes, and they all can get together, and Gaza can be rebuilt.
Graham, you can talk all day, and I'm going to keep you on the line until you tell me what you think "nothing will stop us" means.
I don't know what you...
Yes, you do.
I can't say what...
Of course you can.
...is in his mind.
So you can conjure up a confident prediction of what would happen in Israel in the event of Hamas surrendering.
Hamas.
Graham, you're letting yourself down. What does "nothing will stop us" mean?
He means he wants to eradicate Hamas.
No, he doesn't. What does "nothing will stop us" mean?
It means he'll do what it takes to eradicate Hamas.
So what would stop him from continuing that course? How many deaths?
The surrender of Hamas would stop him.
No, nothing will stop us.
The surrender of Hamas would stop him.
Graham, you know what these words mean, Graham? It means
surrender of Hamas will stop him.
It means he's prepared to kill 2 million civilians.
No, it doesn't. Don't be stupid.
Well, so you know what it doesn't. You know what it doesn't mean,
James. You're being absolutely ridiculous.
So what does it mean then?
It means he wants to eradicate Hamas.
No, what does "nothing will stop us" mean? Because you know what it doesn't mean.
He will use all the military power he has to eradicate Hamas.
Yes, and the civilians who are caught up in the crossfire?
If they're being used by Hamas as human shields, they are a terrible consequence of war, which Hamas can stop by surrendering.
So there we are, all 2 million of them.
No.
So how many?
You're being just fantastic.
Well, thank you, but how many? How many, Graham? How many, Graham? How many?
There is no point playing numbers games.
But you just rejected 2 million.
No, I'm not rejecting. I'm not putting any numbers on it. It's a military situation.
How many is too many?
Be stopped by Hamas surrendering. Why won't you agree that if Hamas surrender, the war stops?
Because I'm not psychic. And I'm talking about Benjamin Netanyahu's current policy, which is "nothing will stop us." And you can't even say what those 4 words mean because...
I'm sorry,
because the words would turn... The words would... A hypothetical situation, Graham. You're here to talk about...
But you're not that clever.
Oh, I am. You're here to talk about Hamas surrendering, and you're criticising me for discussing a hypothetical situation.
Well, it's not a hypothetical situation for Hamas to surrender. I'll give you an example. Arafat surrendered in Jordan, and they all went out of Jordan, and there was peace.
And Netanyahu said, in the next war, if we do it right, we'll have a chance to get all the Arabs out. So it was just an exercise in mowing the lawn, I think is the phrase that's often used. Well, just before you go, and I'll ask you this again respectfully, Why do you find it so hard to answer that question, nothing will stop? Is it because you do know the answer and you don't want to say it out loud?
I don't agree. I don't know the answer, and you don't know the answer as well. You're just throwing these words up in the air, and frankly, they're an incitement.
Well, I'm asking you what they mean, that's all.
No, I've told you what they mean. They mean the eradication of Hamas. Simple as that.
And what does nothing mean?
I've told you. I mean, I feel like talking to the wall.
Well, I know how you feel. But nothing will stop us means there is absolutely no limit upon how much civilian death we will accommodate in pursuit of what you describe as the eradication of Hamas. Why do you find that so hard to admit?
Because I don't agree with you. I don't think it means that at all.
So what does it mean then?
The eradication of Hamas.
So what
and Hamas can
all right,
stop
Graham.
it tonight.
Okay, Graham. I mean, down with hypotheticals and numbers games. Nothing will stop us. There are 2 million people in Gaza, and there are 20, 30,000 Hamas terrorists, say 50,000 if you prefer. How many of the 2 million must die in pursuit of the eradication of the 50,000? So the reason I read out those grim texts earlier is because I don't want to accuse Graham of lacking courage, because I think he's a better person in some ways than Marcus, who writes about the easiest way is just to wipe Gaza off the map. They have nothing to offer the world anyway. Because Graham's moral compass prevents him from going there in public, out loud. I think even in private he can't conceive of Gaza being wiped off the map, and in Marcus's words, they have nothing to offer the world anyway. But unless you are prepared to say that out loud, then you end up having to pretend that you don't.
James O'Brien doesn't just debate this caller, he dissects him, piece by piece. For nearly 10 minutes you can hear Graham, the caller, trying to sound reasonable, insisting that the violence could stop if only Hamas surrendered. It's the kind of argument that sounds simple, even moral, until James drops the quiet question that unravels everything. What does nothing will stop us actually mean? From that moment, Graham's confidence evaporates. He fumbles, he circles, he stalls, because deep down he knows exactly what those words imply. He just can't bring himself to say them out loud. Each time James repeats the question, the silence grows heavier, until it becomes obvious that the real issue isn't misunderstanding, it's avoidance. This is intellectual cowardice in its purest form, when someone knows the truth, but refuses to say it because the reality is too ugly to confront. And what makes it even more devastating is James's calm precision. No anger, no mockery, just patience. Walking Graham through every word, every dodge, every contradiction until there's nowhere left to hide. By the end, Graham admits what he's been denying all along, that he does know what nothing will stop us means, but he can't say it, because saying it would expose everything he's been defending. It's one of those moments that leaves you silent after listening. Not because it's loud or dramatic, but because the truth, when cornered, speaks volumes all on its own. James O'Brien peels this argument apart like a surgeon. Graham phones in with a neat, simple line. If Hamas surrender, the killing stops. On its face, that sounds reasonable, easy, moral even. But James doesn't let the soundbite stand. He redirects the conversation to the one thing that actually matters in the moment. What is Netanyahu doing right now? What does "nothing will stop us" mean today? That's the pivot, and Graham never meets it. Instead of answering what Netanyahu's stated policy is, Graham keeps circling back to his own counterfactual, what Hamas should do, as if that somehow answers the original question. It doesn't. It's like asking the temperature and getting, "You should wear a coat." Useful advice, maybe, but not an answer. James repeats the focus. What is Netanyahu doing? What does "nothing will stop us" mean? Each time, Graham pivots again to surrender scenarios, precedent, hypotheticals. He refuses to engage with the actual words on the record. Then the moment that lays bare the whole collapse, James asks what position of Netanyahu's would become irrelevant after surrender. Graham's reply, "I have no idea what his position is." Think about that. You've called into live radio to defend a policy you claim to understand, and when pressed to define the policy, you say you don't know what it is. That's not a debate tactic. It's a dodge. It's an inability or an unwillingness to grapple with the real implications of the words being used to justify mass action. James forces the distinction. Talking about what should happen is not the same as explaining what is happening. Graham never makes that leap, and that gap between slogans and substance is where his whole case quietly implodes. At this point, Graham's defense fully unravels. He actually says, "I can't know what's in his mind," right after calling into a national show to defend Netanyahu's military policy in Gaza. Think about that. You claim to support a leader's strategy, but you can't even describe what that strategy is. That's when James drops the bombshell. Netanyahu didn't say "nothing will stop us" decades ago, as Graham assumed. He said it yesterday, directly to the US Secretary of State. Suddenly, Graham's entire premise crumbles. His fallback excuse, that these were old words from a different time, vanishes instantly. Yet even with that clarity, he still refuses to grapple with what those 4 words actually mean. James shifts gears and goes in methodically, word by word. What does nothing mean? What does "will stop" mean? What does "us" mean? Each question cornering Graham tighter, stripping away every escape route. Graham flails, first claiming it's irrelevant once the fighting stops, then saying Netanyahu just wants to eradicate Hamas, then changing the subject to politics and power. But James keeps pulling him back to the core point. Those 4 words describe an unlimited campaign, one with no line, no boundary, no moral ceiling. Because "nothing will stop us" doesn't mean we'll fight Hamas. It means no level of destruction, no number of civilian deaths, no international pressure will make us stop. And deep down, Graham knows that's what it means. He even concedes, reluctantly, that Netanyahu will do what it takes to eradicate Hamas, and that civilian deaths are just a terrible consequence of war. But when James calmly asks the obvious follow-up, how many civilians? How many deaths are too many? Graham freezes. He refuses to say, because the moment you try to put a number on it, you expose the horrifying moral calculus underneath. That silence, that refusal, says more than any argument ever could. This is where James delivers the quiet knockout. When he points out that "nothing will stop us" logically means Netanyahu is prepared to keep going. Even if it means 2 million civilian deaths, Graham explodes, calling it stupid and ridiculous. But notice what he still can't do. He can't name a limit. He can't say "no, Netanyahu would stop at this point," because there is no point. That's what "nothing" means. Graham keeps insisting Hamas could end the war by surrendering, but won't admit that Netanyahu's words imply no amount of civilian loss would make him stop either. James exposes that contradiction perfectly, showing how Graham can predict Netanyahu's future, yet suddenly claim he can't know what's in his mind. When faced with the literal words he said yesterday, it's not consistencies, it's avoidance. And James makes that painfully clear. He even compares Graham to another caller who openly said Gaza should be wiped out. Graham's too decent to say that, but by defending "nothing will stop us" without acknowledging what it means, he's quietly endorsing the same outcome while pretending not to. That's not debate. That's moral evasion wrapped in denial. Graham keeps circling the same line, that civilian deaths are a terrible consequence, and everything would end if Hamas just surrendered. But he refuses to confront the core truth. Netanyahu's own words, "nothing will stop us," mean exactly what they sound like, not speculation, not interpretation, just taking the statement at face value. James doesn't need to read minds. The words speak for themselves. Nothing includes everything, and even unlimited civilian deaths. That's the policy being defended. And deep down, Graham knows it. He's not confused, he's cornered. He understands that admitting the obvious would mean acknowledging he's defending a campaign with no moral limit. So instead, he fills the silence with diversions, politics, surrender, hypotheticals, anything but the question that exposes the truth. For 10 long minutes he dances around it, refusing to say out loud what his own argument demands. Because once you name it, you have to live with it. And he can't. And in the end, this call becomes more than just a debate. It's a case study in what happens when someone shows up with slogans instead of substance. Graham came in certain, Israel's the good side, Hamas the bad, and surrender equals peace. It's a simple story, one that avoids the uncomfortable complexity of real-world consequences. But when James forces him to confront what "nothing will stop us" actually means, that story collapses. Because acknowledging those words means admitting you're defending a position that accepts civilian death as collateral, and Graham simply can't do that out loud. That's the danger of debating on autopilot. When your argument rests on talking points rather than thought, the moment someone holds up a mirror, everything falls apart. If you found this breakdown eye-opening, hit subscribe and turn on notifications, because this isn't the last time we'll see talking points crumble under their own weight. Share this with someone who still thinks repeating a slogan is the same as having an argument. And let me know in the comments, did Graham finally realize what he was defending? Or is he still convincing himself he just didn't understand the question?